Welcome back to The Contender, where we sit down with leaders who are fighting for conservative values and delivering real results for the American people. I'm your host, Congresswoman Erin Houchin, and today I'm honored to have a true American patriot on the show, one of my dear friends, Congressman Morgan Luttrell. Morgan is a decorated combat veteran, a warrior for border security, and a leader in Congress. Morgan, it's such a pleasure to have you in my office today.
Thank you for the invitation.
Yeah, well, we've known each other for a while. You were like one of my first friends in Congress. So.
I would agree with that statement 100%.
Yeah, we met during orientation, and we just have been friends ever since.
A solid energy between the two of us.
Yeah.
Just kind of picking everybody apart. So
yeah,
we found each other early.
We did, and I appreciate you very much. You've been truly a very, very dear friend to me. You've been to my district.
I have.
That was a great time.
I could go on about that.
Well, you talked about how well the grass.
Is the most. I still talk about that.
So talk to me about the grass in the 9th District of Indiana. Let's talk about that first.
Yeah, oddly enough, so yard work is like, it's my zen. It's where I go to for my happy place. And I live on a small little farm, but the way I was raised, my father, yard work was like a thing. And I was just really taken because when we landed in your district, and my twin brother Marcus was with us too, and so it wasn't. I was looking out the left window, he was looking out the right. So this thing both noticed on both sides of the car that.
And you're twins.
Identical twins, yes. The amazing part about your district is I don't know if everybody gets up on Saturday morning at the exact same time and mows the yard, but every single yard was pristine. It was beautiful, it was gorgeous. You know, we have junk cars out there, the horses or the cattle, but y'all, it was so profound that I actually talked about it when we were meeting with some of your constituents. But that part of the United States, specifically that part of the state, is just so well groomed. It almost is. It's so disarming. It's like, hey, everybody around here seems to be very comfortable with where they are.
I think that's true, and it's like the heart of the Midwest to me, heart and soul, right? Like, so the people there. Like, you know me around this building, like, I'll hug you, like, don't.
Yeah, we do that too where I'm from.
Right. But like some people around here are like, what? I'm not a hugger.
Ask permission, or it's oddly challenging.
But or, just whatever you need, I'll help you. And you have that same point of view. If you need me, I'm there. And in the Midwest, I have found where I grew up in the 9th District in Indiana, it's that way. It's neighborly. It's what we call the Hoosier spirit.
There you go.
So, well, let's talk a little bit about your background, if you don't mind, to tell us about. You were a Navy SEAL. Mm-hmm. I guess, should I say you are a Navy SEAL? Or?
That's a great question. So every morning when I get up, I don't feel like one anymore, just because the kind of the body and the mileage is a little bit beat down and starting to wear out a little bit. But yeah, I still.
You're a SEAL.
I think because that's a mental aspect of that game is still very alive and well.
And your brother Marcus also.
Marcus was a twin, yes. There's actually 7 SEALs, 7 Naval Special Warfare operators, 7 SEALs currently in Congress.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah, one in the Senate and then the rest of us are in.
Well, I think 5 of them were in our class, maybe. 4 or 5 of them were in our class.
There's 5 of us.
Yeah. And now we have John McGuire from Virginia.
Yeah, Mr. Sheehy up in the Senate.
Mr. Sheehy, that's right. So amazing for me, who, my grandfather was in the service and grew up just having an immense amount of respect, particularly for the Navy SEALs, some of the hardest work in the military.
And it has its moments.
You have trained, actually, I think, at Muscatatuck Urban Training Center.
We did, absolutely. That was, how come you bringing that up? I didn't think anybody knew where that place was except for us.
Yeah, it's in my district.
Yeah, obviously, you guys do. Yeah, we actually, that specific the teams on that coast actually go out there and train quite a bit.
Yeah.
It's a great training environment.
It's a great place. And if someone has never been to the Muscatatuck Urban Training Center, it's worth checking out. I would say.
It's a best kept secret.
They do have an open house. Yeah, in my district, they do have an open house every year where this community can come in and check it out. So people should do that. But you've trained there. Lots of the Navy SEALs have trained there. I think even it was SEAL Team 6 that went in to get Osama bin Laden.
Yes, correct.
And they did some training there.
Yeah, you can do a lot of offsite training, so you can fly out from the coast. You can pick up in the coast and fly all the way out and do a drop into the training area.
Really?
And then leave the same day.
Wow, that's incredible. Well, What first motivated you? Because I know you had an interest in joining the SEALs.
We did.
Early when you were young, very young, I think.
Military service is part of my family lineage. The majority of males and a lot of the females all served in the military. Back in the 1900s, when we were born and kind of when we were creating the ideologies of going into the military, the SEAL teams, nobody knew about them. They were still a very close-knit, quiet organization. And my father had talked about it. My father was in the Navy, and then you would hear kind of grumblings in the wind when there would be a group of veterans together that understood, hey, look, there's an organization inside the Navy that does these things. There was a documentary that published on the Discovery Channel. Actually, when we found out about it, we were reading the TV Guide. Remember those things?
Oh, gosh.
Remember TV Guide?
Some of our listeners don't remember TV Guide. But
If you find one in a pawn shop,
it was a paper book.
It was. So anyway, the TV schedule was in this book, and the Discovery Channel was called The Silent Option, and so we watched it, and it just talked about the SEAL teams, and from that second, my brother Mark and I were like, all right, that's it, that's the deal. But no name recognition, no really kind of superb or supreme athletic ability, and it was. It was always said that you can't make, it's like the 1%, less than 1% make it through the training. And who are we from Willis, Texas, growing up a horse to do that? But I mean, that was kind of our mission. Marcus went in first and made it, and I came in actually 2 years later and went through, and then I made it. Yeah, we were the 5th set of identical twins to ever become SEALs.
That's pretty incredible.
Yeah.
And I don't know if the statute of limitations has expired on your story of training. If you don't want to tell it, we'll cut it out. But if you do want to tell it, you told this story when you were in my district about how Marcus was sick one day.
Switch?
Yeah, the switch.
Oh yeah, we did the.
So Marcus was sick, was not feeling well.
He was injured.
He was in training.
I'll kind of waved up on this one, and has been, I don't know, declassified, or it's not the best kept secret anymore. It has gone out to the mass. We that's what twins do, right? Twins are twins, and we're identical twins. We look exactly the same.
Yes, you do. I can vouch for that.
And so through our life, we had switched classes and kind of done the fun things. And don't ask me why it was a great idea for us to do this, but I was out visiting him, and the opportunity, it literally presented itself in a blink of a snap of a finger. So I did a day of training for my brother. Saying this as a congressional member now, just like, what a terrible idea. It's like, this could go in so many different bad directions. But I did a day of training for Marcus, and we were successful.
Yeah.
Did
he worry like that?
Okay, so that's how fast it happened, and we were really good at doing this.
Yeah.
So there was never. But that's a great point, because hey, look, when I was on the run that we went on, would I quit?
Would you quit? That right?
Or would I slip on some seaweed and break my ankle, falling on the beach? Then what? You have to go back. Hey, sorry, bro, I quit. You'd already gone through Hell Week.
Yeah.
Anyway, so we made it, and it was all copacetic, but eventually the story came out, and then of course I had to show up, but I paid my penance, and I did every day just like I was supposed to do.
When you went through the program, when you went through training 2 years later, did they know then that had happened, and did you suffer the consequences as a training?
So all the instructors were still there.
Oh gosh.
Oh yeah, they were happy to see me when I showed up.
I bet they were.
Man.
Were you like, thanks a lot, Marcus?
No, because it was mine. I was all in. This is a group decision. This relationship here.
Group decision. Yeah. Well, we enjoyed hearing that story. I know that that you guys are very close, and just two really incredible human beings.
Yeah,
thank you for your service, both of you. And I guess some of the experiences that you had in the military and as a SEAL might have prepared you for some of this work in Congress.
Definitely.
What lessons do you think you learned along the way that have helped you be a successful member of this body?
I would say humility and patience. I learned that.
Yeah, we need a lot of that.
In a hurry.
Yeah.
In those theaters of war.
I wish more people around here had it.
It's amazing. Knee-jerk reactions are a very bad thing. in my prior life and experiences. You learn to let situations develop before you create an action plan. That way you don't make the wrong decision that can be permanent. And that's value added.
You said something to me before, and I use it still to this day when I tell people the best way to navigate this place. And it's going to sound bad, but it really speaks to just be upfront with somebody, just be an honest broker. And you said something like, stab me in the chest, not in the back.
Yeah.
Right. So I can see you coming, and we know what we're dealing with.
Yeah.
And if everyone around this place would operate that way, I think we'd be a lot more productive.
Brutally honest, right there in the front of you, just like you know where I'm coming from.
Yep, that's right.
Because that's this place. The challenge, and I use this analogy too, and I think actually we shared this one. Congress is 435 offensive coordinators trying to call the play to get into the end zone.
Yeah, that's
435 offensive coordinators trying to call one play. And you need to know where I'm coming from. I need to know where you're coming from. Somewhere in the middle is the answer that's going to get us into the end zone.
Did you play football?
I did. No, I was a tennis player.
Really?
Yeah.
Did Marcus play football?
No, I was a tennis player. We graduated. When I graduated high school, I was 5'6".
Do you have pictures of this?
5'6". Yeah, of course.
Okay.
I was 5'6", 150 pounds when I graduated high school. I was a little big guy.
Oh, wow.
I grew my summer from my senior year in high school. We
sprouted.
I was
you
like
hit your
6'4",
growth
150 pounds. It was hilarious.
Oh my
Like
gosh.
a beanpole walking around.
Well, you're not that now.
No, I miss as a military
Yeah.
output.
So I got to ask though, did you ever play baseball? Because you are an incredible catcher for the
Thank you.
congressional baseball team. You were the MVP last year.
I don't know how that happened. I can think of 100. I can think of everybody else on the team, Stubby and Pfluger and Schmitty. They got all this. They're great players. But yeah, I did. I got MVP
last year.
It was. I can honestly tell you, I was in so much pain for about 4 days after the game. I think the MVP kind of took the edge off.
Yeah, right. No kidding. Well, it was terrific. I'm on the team. I didn't play. I had a broken ankle.
Yeah.
I was glad I broke my ankle in my backyard, not in front of 20,000 people in the stadium.
Yeah, because Morgan McGarvey.
He did break his ankle. He broke his foot.
Slide into second, I think.
Yeah. Well, that's for charity.
It's a vicious game.
It is a vicious game, but you are an excellent athlete, great catcher, even though you didn't ever play baseball. So.
And you got to, get your mind behind something.
You just do it.
Even now, when they were like, "Hey, you're going to be catcher," I was like, "All right." So I'm a YouTube freak, and I literally train. My squat routines and everything to get my knees warmed up. And
see, this is why I love these conversations that we have in the podcast, because I ask you randomly about the baseball team and your athleticism, and then you tell me something that it gives me a lot of insight, not just about your approach to the baseball team, but your approach through your whole life, through your military career, and now in Congress is, you said, I train.
Every day.
I want to figure it out. And you're continuing to evolve.
That was a valuable lesson I learned early on in military career, and some senior military guys and gals. Hey, look, man, I'm gonna tell you right now, we're going to war, and there's somebody on the other side is training harder than you are.
Yeah. Wow.
Believe it.
Well, we want to train harder than the other side here. Yeah, for sure.
No matter how bad it hurts, how tired you are, how miserable, somebody's training harder than you. They're coming to get you.
Yeah, that's really, really helpful. It's helpful in anything, in business,
everything,
in life, and everything. Well, let's pivot to the border.
Okay.
You're from Texas. It's a border state. I think every state now, because of President Biden, is a border state. But you are leading efforts to help secure the border, but also you filed a bill this week to help us with the issue of human trafficking. Can you talk a little bit about the legislation, what motivated you to file it, and where you see it going? How can we be helpful?
Yeah, so I represent District 8. It's where I was raised, which is representing where you grew up is a big deal. And but we're a strategic landing zone for the illegal immigrants that are coming through the border, because they don't stay on the border, they move interland to the state, and we're on the I-45-35 corridor. And I sit right above Houston, kind of like the doorknob down into the energy corridor. Farming and ranching, but it's I would say the best thing about it's easy to get lost. And Houston, I represent a portion of Harris County, which is Houston, and Houston is the #1 city in the country for sex trafficking.
Wow.
#1. I can honestly say every time I have to say that, it makes me sick to my stomach. I don't understand how that can actually be a thing. But with the previous administration, the Biden administration, all the gates were open. It was free flow. Hey, come do what you please. And we have, the previous administration, and you could say lost, have no idea, but 300,000 children
Kids, yeah.
are gone. They're somewhere in this metaverse.
When I visited the border, we visited the migrant, the unaccompanied minor processing center, and I've told this story on the podcast before, but there were about 10 unaccompanied minors that came across the border and were at this processing center. None of them spoke English, obviously, and one 16-year-old girl was holding on to a little 2-year-old, and they said, "Is this your sister?" And she said, "No." They handed her to me. Of course, they were speaking in Spanish to her, but they handed her to me as we crossed the border. She's alone. And those kids, to my understanding, under the Biden administration, were given like a piece of paper with an address that says where they're supposed to go when they get here, and then they go there and they're discharged from service. So where we have things like Child Protective Services that will monitor,
you can't
kids
even say
in
the system. You can't even say that system they were utilizing was broken. It just didn't.
They just didn't do
exist.
it. Yeah, that's right.
So with DHS and HHS, the legislation is, and this is just the first phase of it, creating a absolute vetting process on the receiving end of who's going to take these children. The president currently has locked the border down,
Yep.
so that hopefully we're going down to a zero-sum gain of babies coming across the border by themselves. But we have to make sure that we create this infrastructure that tracks these children that have just been abandoned or taken from their families by the cartels, so we can have accountability for them. As a father, this is kind of how my mind kind of gets around the problem set. Is like I wouldn't want my son, if my sons were in this position for whatever reason, I'd want to make sure that somebody was taking care of them. They were going to a place that is going to either support, sustain them for the rest of their lives. I'm not just going to cast them out to the state and say, "Here you go, good luck."
I think that, I don't know this, I'd be interested in your take, but I think that the cartels were making promises to the parents that they would allow the parents to follow at some point, go ahead and send your kids, and then probably putting some of these kids into
the psychological operations that the cartels have are, you can say, terrifying. As a former military guy who dealt with psychological operations, their ability, cartels carry a very heavy gun too, so the conversation is very one-sided, and promises can be made, but for the public that they're engaging with, they either don't know any different, or they're terrified that either they're going to kill the children or kill themselves.
Yeah.
And there's no debate or negotiations here.
And the government really isn't in control down there.
It is not, because the cartels are a very formidable force, and militarily as well. I mean, they have recruited from around the world special operators from other countries. I mean, these guys and gals are a very high threat, a tier 1 threat. And for mom and dad who are just farmers or ranchers or small business owners, when you have a presence walk in, that is overwhelming.
I think we saw some of that when we saw what happened in Aurora, Colorado, where there were Venezuelan gangs that took over the apartment building.
The Trinity Aragua.
We saw something like what I think that might be like for some of these families.
Somebody's beating on the outside of your door. 5 guys outside with guns.
Yeah.
What are you
going to do? Yeah. Well, I'm so grateful for President Trump and closing the border, for Governor Abbott and everything he's doing in Texas, for members like you who can talk to us, who can bring us to the border and say, "Let me show you what's really happening." We know it because we see it in some of our communities, even in Indiana, we're hundreds of miles from the southern border, but we are impacted.
Sure. But you're on the receiving end. The border is just one part of it.
That's right. Yeah,
it's what happens downstream.
Right.
That exacerbates the problem even more.
Well, when you have fentanyl overdoses and you have traffic fatalities and just a number of things that compound by having this border problem. But you've been really the front lines of this crisis in Texas and have been leading on it here in Congress. But that's not the only issue that you've been leading on. You also lead on veterans issues. And when you were in the district, we did talk to a lot of veterans from Southern Indiana who really appreciated that you were there, that you understand how the VA works or doesn't work for some of our veterans. Talk to me a little bit about what you anything that you're planning to work on, and how you see Congress working with our new Secretary of Defense and Secretary of VA, Pete Hegseth, SecDef, and Doug Collins at the VA. How do you see working with them? Are you excited about it?
Yeah, I'll start with Secretary Collins with the VA. You pinged on that one first. And so this Congress, veteran suicide's number one issue across the board. Any secretary should say that, and that's a systemic problem set that it inherently getting worse every year. And I'm a former researcher, so we're missing the mark. Now, whether or not it's our aggressiveness in the Department of Veterans Affairs to say, okay, I'll stop evolution. This is what we're laser focused on. Fix it. I'm hoping to engage with President Vance, who's a veteran himself, and then Mr. Trump as our commander-in-chief is always, hey, what do we need? What do you guys want? And I think Mr. Collins has a lot of leash to do just that. And he's former member of Congress too, so he knows how to navigate the challenging waters here in the House. So I think there's a respectful latitude
that he's going to be given.
That he'll be given, and
he understands. He understands.
He
here
can
and
talk to us
there.
because like, I know exactly what you're going through.
Yes.
And let me help you, because this is what I want, what I need, who do I need to talk to, what committees, where is it multi-jurisdictional, what not, what have you.
That's
so
right.
That's good, because we have 172 VA hospitals that don't communicate with each other. Electronic healthcare record system is broken. We're $16 billion in debt to a system that has failed. These little nuances that we need to fix to make the machine work more efficiently. I think he's going to be able to take a very large leap forward.
And DOJ is helping with some of this, trying to take out some inefficiencies.
They are, because they're stair-stepping different departments. They haven't got to VA yet. They will.
Are you curious as to what they'll find?
There's going to be a lot.
Yeah.
The tricky part is when you start, it's tricky when you're taking things out of departments, but when you walk into the VA, you're going to be taking something from a veteran.
Yeah. Well, I hope that they'll have you and other veterans that are serving.
I pray that they will. I hope to sit down with Mr. Musk and slide this across the desk as a chairman of one of the subcommittees, but with Mr. Boss as the chairman himself. Say, hey, sir, these are the things that we've lined out for you. Please take a granular look at our problems. And we'll see how that unpacks itself.
And I think, honestly, with the people that President Trump has assembled to work on the issue, with Hegseth, with Collins, with Vice President J.D. Vance, who is a veteran, hopefully, I believe that he'll be open to all of that and to hearing from you. And
he's going to sweep that Doug. VA has probably the ugliest bureaucracy out of every department, any department we have.
Yeah, and that in many cases doesn't work for our veterans. And I've got a family.
The veterans are the ones that suffer for it.
They are. I've got a family in my district that I'm actually working on legislation for, that their veteran needed memory care. And the closest memory care was 2 hours away that the VA would approve, and they could not get anything closer to home. And, if nothing is available closer to home, then maybe they should have some options on, some more flexibility from the
Maybe that
from
facility should go to them.
Do what?
Maybe that facility should go out to them.
Yeah, or or maybe there's a facility that's closer to home.
If there's not one closer,
that the VA
absolutely.
could approve if there's a geographic hardship, and so things like that look maybe better on paper than they do in practice. Here's a facility. Well, it's 2 hours away. Then the wife of that veteran had and his family had a really great hardship to drive 2 hours to visit, their
in hopes that it worked out when they got
family
there.
member.
Yeah.
So we're working on that, but I'm excited to see some of the things that they are going to be able to create inefficiencies as long as they take really good care of our veterans.
Sure.
Well, this is the part of the program, and I could talk to you all day. In fact, we'll probably be talking after the cameras go off. But this is the part of the show where I ask you to just talk about a contender in your life. So you know the story about our family and the motto that we follow. Has there been someone in your life that you could point to as a big influence, and tell us a story about how that has had influence over you and the path that you've been on?
How far back do you, I mean, because it's amazing how many people will fall into that position.
Well, maybe you don't want to pick one. Maybe you want to pick a few.
Well, I got to tell you, because now I'm going to, and because my wife,
she's incredible.
She is, and she sent me a picture of my son, my oldest son, Gunner, who's 11 now. She sent me a picture. He's on his baseball pictures just came out, and she sent this to me yesterday, and I didn't recognize him.
This is a challenge of serving in this place.
It is, and so Leslie has been a full-time wife, full-time mom to 2 boys, with 4 years between.
At home in
Texas, with a full-time job, a travel job, not sitting at the office. She has to work her region, but then she goes to 2 different baseball practices in 2 different towns twice a week, but the tournaments are on Saturday and Sunday for both boys, and then I show up.
You probably come in like a tornado or something.
And I try not to do that because I know I don't want to disrupt the kind of how the flow is going. Like come home from deployment. But I got to tell you, you look for that anchor point, like you say, and the fact that she's sitting there holding the house down while I'm up here doing this.
I think that's a perfect example.
Man, it's
a perfect example.
And you really can't even put it into perspective. It's a feeling. You kind of see it, feel it.
Well, I couldn't do any of this without my husband at home, right? Like he is holding the fort down at home. I still have a teenager at home who's a sophomore in high school, learning to drive, going to all of his stuff. So they do take on a lot. And you know, I always say people will thank me for my service. I'm like, well, there's my whole family is because
you're like me. I don't know, because I've been dragging Leslie through. I won't say hell, but I've been dragging my wife through my life.
Yeah.
And say, hey, get ready. Here we go.
Here we go again. But also, I would say, like, when people say that to me, I always say, don't thank me for my service. Like, there are people who make greater sacrifices than I do in service in this way, like in the military, in deployment. But it is one of the hardest jobs that I've ever had because of you're getting on an airplane every week to come out here and fight battles against, on ideology and trying to get this country on the right path. Meanwhile, our spouses are at home holding down the fort.
And then they have to deal with everything that they're dealing with. And then when we come home,
they have to deal with us.
They have to deal with us and what we're offloading.
Yeah, that's right. That's exactly right.
And I try to never take it personal and never take it home. But we can't walk around without our job showing up.
Yeah. You can't go to the grocery store.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You can't.
And honestly, I want it that way because I want to be accessible to people back home, and I want them to feel like they can come talk to me and say, hey, I've got this issue. I don't want them to feel like they can't do that. But it is, and it's part of the job, and we signed up for it.
It's a volunteer program.
Yes, but also, like, it does impact our families at home.
Because my sons are like, they're to a point now, like, Daddy, don't go.
Yeah.
And then when you're at baseball game, watching your sons play, you're getting called. You're getting it.
Yeah.
And all they want is for you to pay attention.
That's right.
But, man, it's like, oh, and
it's tough. When I go home, you come in like a tornado. Some members of Congress have said, like, they have this time period they call, like, transition, a re-entry, right? We're going to repatriate to the household situation. And I have found that to be useful, right? Like just give us a few minutes to sort of reacclimate. I try not to, as you've said, to disrupt the flow of the house. And I'm always grateful to be home with my husband and my kids, my family, and that's the best time is time that I get to see them. But sometimes my husband will say, "When are you going back?" Right? Like you get into the household and you start to disrupt the flow a little bit.
Luckily,
and they're like, "Wait, when are you going back?"
Luckily, Leslie and I aren't there yet. She's like, "I don't go."
Don't go. Yeah.
Yeah, the good Lord blessed me with my unicorn.
That's great. She's terrific.
Yeah.
And she is a contender. And I think people forget that, people are out in service and the spouses at home are serving too.
Yeah,
and your kids.
It's the kids too. I mean, my son Lincoln is like, "Daddy, I'm proud of you."
That's great.
I was like, "For what?" He's like, "Because you're my daddy." Like, "Hey, buddy." That's the nice thing anybody's ever said to me.
That's awesome.
And we got home. We left here one week, Friday. Got home Friday night. Son was just going down, and Lincoln is like, "Daddy, we're gonna sleep in the treehouse tonight." I was like, "Absolutely, buddy. I'm ready. I've been thinking about this all. Of course, it was 30 degrees outside." He's like, "Daddy, we're gonna sleep in the treehouse tonight." And
I imagine that you've slept in worse.
I have, but it's been a while. You got to condition your back.
Yeah.
I tell you, I laid in that treehouse all night, freezing, and Lincoln was like, "Dad, this is the greatest day of my life." And he was out, and I just laid there.
He probably slept on you.
No, he wasn't his own. But anyway, so yeah, the
That's
three of
awesome.
them. It's just anyway. All right.
Well, you are just a dear friend and a great member of Congress, your state and your district and the country. I have no doubt are in deep appreciation for your service.
I told you one day you're going to be Speaker of the House, so I can't wait to see that happen.
Thanks for that.
You're welcome.
I'm not sure. That's. I don't think I would.
You're welcome. We'll see.
I think I would have to just say, you got to want to do it, and right now,
The best ones that do it don't want to do it.
That's true. That's true. Well, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Morgan.
Thank you very much.
This has been
Enjoyed
a
it.
pleasure.
Absolutely.
Always great to spend time with you, and we'll talk more.
Okay.
Thanks. Special thanks to Morgan Luttrell for not only his service to the country is in the military, but for his leadership in Congress. I really enjoyed our conversation today. Thank you for tuning in to this episode of The Contender. Please be sure to stay with us for more insightful conversations with the leaders who are shaping our future. Don't forget to subscribe, share the podcast, and stay inspired to contend, work hard, and have fun. Thanks again for joining us. We'll see you next time.